Welcome to the CLIMAX Virtual Academy. My name is Clark Turner. I'm the technical sales engineer for the CALDER product line. And today we're going to offer the live Q&A session on this machine here. This is our newest turnaround tester to go over the features and capabilities and how it can be used for you to test your products. We have a short little video that for a demonstration that we're gonna go to. At any time today during this presentation, if you happen to have a question that comes up in your mind, or if you have something you needed answered, by all means, in the Zoom Q&A spot at the bottom of your screen, you can enter that and then type your question in directly, and it will come through. We can answer it now, or if it's sometime either during the video or after the session is over with, feel free. There'll be an email posted. It's askcpmt.com to get your questions answered. We'll be glad to provide you the solution to your questions. So with that, we're going to roll over to the video. The turnaround tester can come in a couple of configurations. One is doing safety relief valve testing only. One of them is also not just the safety relief valve testing only, but also with hydrostatic test capability. So the unit can have both. It can be sold in either configuration. So if you have a need for both, then the other circuit can be added as well. So it's not only can this unit, it's capable of testing up to 6,000 psi for gas and water for pressure relief valves, and then the hydrostatic test is up to 6,000 psi as well. The valve range is, you can go 1/2 inch up to 8 inch in this particular configuration. Anything below 1.5 inches will need an adapter plate. That's kind of understood. But so the other feature that's offered here is if you need liquid testing on pressure relief valves, we would need to attach a water source. The water source would come in through the pump, come down through. We would shut off this valve and then open up this valve that will allow the pressure to get to the seal plate. And then once we have that, then we would open up this valve. We fill the vessel with water. Once that's filled, then we would block this in, open the test port, and open this one as well. And then what we would do is have an air over water test, pushing the water up through the seal port up through the valve and out the outlet. So it can be configured both ways. There's procedures in the manual how to drain the vessel if you want to return back to this gas only test. It's how to evacuate the water. If it's configured with, or if you have a need also to do hydrostatic testing of valves in the same range, then we would install the valve in question under the clamps just the same way, using the same chart. And then we would fill, there's a reservoir, a water reservoir right behind the control console that the pump would get its water from. And once the valve's clamped in place and it's positioned and ready to do the hydrostatic test, then we would increase this valve as well, and we would monitor on this gauge the test, so we can dial up the hydrostatic pressure. So sometimes you can get this machine with or without the hydrostatic portion of it. So it's very useful, very versatile. The other thing that you can see is it's been raised to be used in a shop or on a shop floor environment. This can be easily be done in a field as well. The whole unit can be lowered, and then it can be picked up by forklift and then put into the back of the truck and then driven to the site. So the only external utilities you need is a compressed gas and a water source. Today we want to talk about the CALDER turnaround tester to kind of talk through the whole process of what it takes to load a valve onto the clamp table, configure the machine, and today I have them set up to test with gas. So just to walk through the process that's needed. The first step, identify the valve size, the inlet of the valve, so I can determine how much clamping pressure is needed to hold the valve in place. So from there, in this case, and this is an 1.5-inch valve that I happen to have today. So I look over an 1.5-inch 150 class, requires 300 PSI. So I would install the valve into the clamping table, slide the 3 arms in to hold it in place, and then with this regulator, start building the pressure up to drive the rams to trap the valve between the clamp arms and the seal plate. So that pressure is monitored here on this gauge. I've already got this valve clamped in place. So once it's clamped in place, my safety interlock is going to become real critical. If I needed to adjust the valve, if it's off-centered, or if I needed to manipulate the valve at any point, I can drain it off right here and then close it and position the valve as needed. Once I determine that the valve's in place and I'm good, I leave the valve, the drain valve closed, and then I'm going to configure the valve so that I can apply high pressure gas to the inlet of the valve to test it. So what I have is this unit is fitted with a pressure vessel. So I've got a vessel here that's monitored, the pressure inside the vessel is monitored with this gauge. And then the seal plate has got a gauge here that's going to be indicating the test pressure of the test. And so we can route that through on the face as to where that test pressure port comes from. And so it comes right off the seal plate to monitor that. So in this case, what I need to do first is turn the VO3 valve in upward position. I close off the drain valve. I open up the 2 block valves. And as soon as I open up the 2 block valves, I have a little bit of pressure. You can hear the pressure venting out of the regulators. Well, the first thing that happens is my safety interlock engages with the drain valve for the hydraulics, and now I have a little bit of pressure underneath the valve, so I can't release the hydraulics until I remove that internal pressure. So that's a huge safety interlock, a huge feature for this machine. So once I'm in this position, the valves are set. I'm ready to apply the gas to pop the valve. So in this case, what I have is I'm monitoring the pressure that's in the vessel itself, and then the test pressure here on this gauge. So I dial it up. I know the valve, the nameplate on the valve is stamped for 400 PSI. So I'm going to bring the pressure up to about 300 PSI, and then I'm going to start controlling the ramp rate up from there. So I'm sitting about 310 PSI. And so now I'm ready to start ramping up the pressure and controlling the ramp rate up to set point until it lifts. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the video demonstrating the turnaround tester with the SRB test capabilities. I want to explain that our engineering staff and our product management has done a tremendous job of trying to incorporate all the features that could fit from taking a shop set of equipment and being able to go to the field and use it for the field service. So it's a very versatile tool and it's very useful, and I think you'll find a great satisfaction with using it. With all products that CLIMAX CALDER makes. The topic of safety is usually the very first thing that comes up in conversation or in training, and so we'll kind of go over a few of the items on the back. Right here is a real important sticker. It's first, get your owner's manual and become familiar with it. It's got lots of danger, caution, notice symbols, and notifications in the manual to help guide you in and around the dangerous use of test and safety valves in place. As typical, the shop environment, steel-toe boots, safety glasses with side shields is pretty common. This particular machine will require additional safety features. One of them will be hearing protection when we actually do lift the valve. And then since we'll be using a crane or some other overhead ability to lift valves and put them in place, understand that there's some inherent dangers and risks around the use of lifting equipment. So be familiar with that, be trained on it, and it'll last you a long time. So, okay. We have two basic units to kind of give you a generic. There's the turnaround, we refer to it as the TAT-SRV, and then there's a TAT-SRV Plus. The big difference is the TAT-SRV Plus, not only does it test safety valves, but it also has the circuitry and the capability of doing hydrostatic testing. So with that, the easiest way to tell, there's an additional adjusting regulator on the panel. There's a water reservoir in the back, and then an additional gauge on the front. So again, based on your application or your needs, the unit can be built to your satisfaction. So with that, we'll turn it over to questions. And so I know our coordinator will identify the questions that have been written so far. So can we start with those first?
What is the volume on the vessel?
What is the volume on the vessel? Good question. This test stand is fitted with a 2.5 gallon, fully rated 6,000 PSI gas vessel that sits right behind the test stand. It's kind of hard to see in the picture here, but it sits right here, right behind the control panel. So good question.
Can I connect my own data acquisition unit to the tester to record a test?
Can I connect my data? If you have your own data acquisition system, can you connect it to our unit to record your test? And the answer to that is most certainly. What would be needed is if you're going to monitor pressure and or other units, but the pressure, our test gauge is the digital gauge here in the middle, and directly behind it, I can remove the gauge and change it for different range of gauges if needed. But directly behind it is a port where I can actually remove the plug and install a pressure transducer directly and monitor the same pressure that's going to be used on the test gauge. So good question.
Do you have to get the hydrostatic test capability option on the machine if all you want is SRV test capability?
Do you have to have the hydrostatic test capability if all you're going to be doing is testing PRVs? The answer to that is no, you don't need to. You can order the other feature or the other style machine that comes without the package for hydrostatic testing.
Can the unit be set up in a shop to provide additional testing capacity?
Great question. The question is can this unit, it's identified as a turnaround tester and is meant to be mobile to go to the field. But the question is can it be set up in a shop to offer additional testing capability in a shop environment? And the answer to that question obviously is yes. It's set up today as it would be if I were in a shop testing valves. All I need to connect to it is shop air, high pressure gas test source. This particular unit's already fixed with water, so that 16 gallons in the water tank will last for a while. At some point it'll need to be replenished, so you would need to have a water source readily available. But yes, you can easily remove this from the truck, set it up either on site or in your own shop to add additional testing capability.
Can you test smaller flanged valves than the 1.5 inch identified?
Another good question. For our tester, we have a nameplate on the front that identifies the flanged sizes and pressure classes of valves that can be tested as the unit sits. The chart on the left identifies that this particular unit goes from 1.5 inch up to 8 inch as it sits. And the question is can we test smaller flange valves than the 1.5 inch? And the answer to that is yes. It would require an adapter plate just to provide us the sealing capability to get down to the smaller. The clamp arms are actually fitted with extensions that can actually go in and reach in and clamp the smaller seal plates. So that can be done for sure.
Can external valves that are larger than the allowed on the clamping table be hydro tested?
It's a good question. Can larger valves than what can fit on the clamping table, can they be tested with this unit as well? That's sort of an open question. I'll separate it and identify that if it's a PRV or a safety valve, then I would say no, it needs to be clamped to the table. If you're doing hydrostatic testing, then certainly we can put an adapter plate, an external hose, and this can be treated just like any other hydrostatic pressure source, as long as your valve's fitted with a high point vent, blind flanging, or some way to seal the valve itself. So yeah, it can be done. It can be fitted.
When hydro testing, can a blind flange be used on the non-clamped flange and allow water to be pushed back into the water tank?
Good question. The question is pertaining to the hydrostatic testing. So if I have a ball valve set up in the clamp table, then the other side of that valve is actually open to atmosphere. And so the question is when I'm using the water to run the hydrostatic test, can I place a blind flange on the top side, and then when I'm done, actually just put air pressure, low pressure air in on top of on the valve, and then push all that water back into the reservoir? And the answer to that is yes, it can be done. That's an easy way to recycle the water that's being used. I mean, and if you don't want to take the time to worry about that, then you can rig up to it with a crane, remove the clamping force, and just let it drain. So, but it can be done. You can recycle the water. Okay.
How do you generate hydrostatic test pressure?
How do we generate hydrostatic test pressure? Good question. There's a internal pump, and it's air-driven water pump that's inside. The reservoir is here on the vessel, and so we would use that pump and then monitor the test pressure actually on this gauge, so we can control that just like our HydroPro console or any other hydrostatic test unit that we sell. So.
Can we perform low pressure air seat leakage tests on control valves?
Good question. The question is, can this unit also do a low pressure seat leakage test on control valves? And I'm assuming it's in reference to like the FCI 70.2 classifications where allowable leakage is allowed. And the answer to that question is yes, we can. Typically it's a 50 PSI air test. And so this unit's not fitted with the backside or the downstream side monitoring capabilities, but if you have the flow meters and you have the setup to do that, then certainly you can clamp the valve in place and you can actually perform that testing in the machine as long as you have the external flow meters to monitor and measure. Sure.
Is there a lot of maintenance required on this machine?
Is there a lot of maintenance required on this machine? The answer is no. Actually, the manual's got a whole section on what maintenance is required. It's very minimal. The hardest part about it is to maintain the filters, keeping the screens clear. I've got a screen here to keep large debris out of the pump. So if I notice that my filling time is slow, then I can check the screen or anytime check the screen and clean it. The other is lubrication. We have the ability to lubricate our pumps to extend the life of the pump. So what you want to do on occasion is run a test to make sure that you're getting a 1 drop of oil for every 25 strokes of the pump. Outside of that, it's just a matter of just trying to keep the unit dry, keeping corrosion down, keeping dust to a minimum, that kind of stuff. But it's really maintenance free.
What makes this technology different from other testers that are out there?
What makes this technology different than other testers that are out there? Well, I'm not aware of any other field testing units that are currently on the market, especially at this size. One of the differentiators Between this and several shop units is this is a fully rated 6,000 PSI unit. Goes from inch and a half flange up to 8-inch flange, which is enormous for especially for a field test capable machine. Plus, it's also got the capability to be fitted with the hydrostatic test capability as well. So it's got kind of like a double application built into one unit. Plus, it's portable, fits right in the back of a half-ton truck, and can be mobile in literally a matter of minutes.
Are they available to rent?
Are these available for rent? They certainly are. We do have here in our Deer Park facility in Houston, we have 2 that are currently available for rent. And it's not a bad option to rent it to make sure that you're comfortable with its use. And then once it's been rented a couple of times, you like it, then obviously we can set you up with a sale.
What is the maximum clamping force of this unit?
What is the maximum clamping force of this unit? This unit is fitted with 25 tons of clamping force. So,
And what size water tank comes with the unit?
what size water tank comes with the unit? Good question. This is fitted with a 16-gallon. The recommendation is not to actually run it full, to run it to about 3/4 of the way full. So that's 12 gallons. So that can last quite a while. If you're testing liquid relief valves, that can be several valves before it needs to be refilled. All right. Well, I'd like to thank you for coming today. Again, if you have any additional questions beyond what's come to mind yet, so by all means send them in to askcpmt.cpmt.com. We'd be glad to get you an answer to your questions, and thank you for coming.